Hello everyone, Zelleranth here, and for today's video on Umamusume, we're going to be talking about poll priorities, but from a new player perspective. Now this is a video I try and do about once a month, as this is something that's always changing as we get into new banners and new scenarios, as well as it being something that I don't really see other content creators cover, as a lot of us, when we talk about poll priorities on the specific banners themselves, we're talking from perspective of if you're a veteran, if you already got yourself more of an established deck and are competitive, and you're wanting to keep yourself competitive. A new player is just trying to get themselves competitive as quickly as possible in the most reasonable way with polls, and may actually have different priorities because of that. Now, there are different ways you can approach it, whether you want to go to the direction of getting as strong as possible with a maybe longer term goal versus getting as strong as you can as quickly as you can and be competitive in like champions meetings, graded leagues, ASAP. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. And so my assumptions are always going to be you're either very new and already have done your rerolls or have already done polls to kind of get yourself established, or you're brand new right now willing to reroll. And so with that, we already, right off the bat, do have a banner, if you're a new player, that I think is good enough to reroll on, and that is Taiki Shuttle Speed. One of the things that you've probably heard on this card is while she's a very, very strong card, for the Mile, because she has Mile Maven. It's a very easy skip for veteran players, as she's very niche. Miles are here, they happen here and there, but there's very big, powerful speed cards coming up, namely Summer Maruzensky and Agnes Tachyon speed, that are more priorities to them, versus you, if you're a new player and you can reroll. She is just a solid, get me a decent stat stick card right now. Now, one thing you're missing that a lot of players that have been playing for a while have, is you're missing Kitasan Black, which is currently the best speed card and will continue to be the best generic speed card until El Condor Pasa speed drops towards the end of this year. You're not going to have that, but Taiki Shuttle speed will get you as close as possible to that. Her biggest downside being that her skill only applies to Miles, which there are not as many as, like, say, Professor of Curvature and Kitasan Black, which works everywhere pretty much. And all of the skills are Miles skills. But if you reroll on her, you can get her to high dupes, and she gives you speed point bonus, skill point bonus, power bonus, so that's a really good stat stick there. She has training effectiveness. Now, you do want to get it all the way to Limit Break 4 to maximize that, but even at Limit Break 3, you get 5%. She has hint levels 4, so when their miles do come up, she's very good at getting you those mile skills, as well as the Mile Maven at the top. And just an all-around generically good speed card. That gets you one of them off right off the bat as a new player, which is where you're going to want 3 in the next scenario Grand Live, because they're going to increase the speed cap, requiring you to use stronger and more speed cards. So this starts you off fairly strong. Should take minimal amount of pulls, since you're doing rerolls to basically force the luck through rerolls, and will give you a great start. But if you're not willing to reroll, or you've already started the game and already kind of got yourself established, have a decent amount of carrots, and you're looking at what to pull up next, there's a couple different approaches to the next speed cards. The next two big are fairly close to each other. We have the one you probably heard about, Maruzensky Speed. And then you have, not too long after her, the new scenario banner that will drop with Agnes Tachyon Speed, that is also paired with the PAL card Light Hello. Now, there's a multitude of ways you can approach this. If you're not going to start playing for like a month, basically when she drops, she's a very good reroll target, because you only need Limit Break 1 to get all the value out of her. That is one of the strong things with Summer Maruzensky, is you can immediately get her most of her value at Limit Break 1, which, because we will get a free selector with the 1.5 year anniversary that you can farm up through doing the daily quests, then you can get Limit Break 0 on the polls, which is only going to require you 200 polls, and then use the selector to take it up to Limit Break 1. Now, if you get lucky and get her at, say, Limit Break 1 in 200 polls, you can use that selector potentially somewhere else, depending on how the rest of your polls go in terms of off-banner hits. But she is very, very good. Now, she is front-runner specific, and I will say, as a new player just now getting into the game, you're missing one of the very, very strong wit cards for front-runners in terms of Mihono Bourbon Wit. that has a massive advantage going into the next scenario with the link match, but you can make do with this as a stat stick for your others as well. Her biggest thing being massive amount of training effectiveness on whatever training facility she lands on as you level those ones up. Now, she does have fairly low special priority, which is kind of the big negative to her, but still a very good generic speed card in that respect. The next big one, and this is the one you'll probably hear a lot of people say, you can skip Summer Maruzensky, which even I think potentially you could, because she does rerun not too long after this banner, is Agnes Tachyon Speed. Now, if you pull heavily on this banner, you're going for 2 cards, which is going to be really, really good for getting you caught up as quickly as possible and being competitive in the next scenario. And that is because, one, you just get Light Hello on this banner, mandatory card for the next scenario. If you don't have her and you're wanting to be competitive in Graded League, you're going to have to borrow her. So if you're pulling on this banner, which you should, even as a new player, even if you pull on some Maruzensky, you should hopefully have enough pulls through all the extra stuff you have to do a minimum of 200 pulls here, because there will be some free ones. But the other thing is Agnes Tachyon Speed, and this is the one where I think there's a lot of contention on how many pulls you want to do on this banner. I had made a video kind of discussing whether or not, reacting to someone else discussing whether or not you want to do 400 pulls on this banner, with the main goal being ultimately you want to try and MLB Agnes Tachyon Speed. Unlike Summer Maruzensky, who 200 pulls will basically get you right to where you want, Agnes Tachyon has her kit is backloaded, meaning the biggest thing she has is on the back end, which is Limit Break 3 and Limit Break 4, which both of them give you skill point bonus. So when you get to Limit Break 3, you get skill point is 1 point, and Limit Break, or MLB, skill point bonus 2. As a new player, if you can get this thing MLB, you can treat this basically as your Kitas on black all the way up until El Condor Pasa Speed. So it will survive you 2 scenarios, maybe even more, depending on what other cards you pull on, as she is a fairly strong card. Now, yes, she is Pace Chaser specific with her gold, but she has okay skills within her kit. She has a lot of medium stuff that'll just generically work, but mostly Pace stuff. And Pace is getting a little bit better over time. We will be getting some excels and stuff with future Umas, and so by no means is this something to think, oh, I can just skip it and then just borrow Light Hello as a new player and then just make do all the way into Grandmasters, unless you want to suffer for the entire Grand Live scenario. And so even if you do pull on Summer Maruzensky, this one I would say is at least 200. So the real thing is to think about whether you want to do more than that. And it just comes more down to a decision of how you want to approach it. If you want to be as competitive as quickly as possible, going more than 200 on this one, I think, is a decent idea, as you're getting 2 for the price of 1 to make yourself strong in Grand Live. Now, this means you blew a lot of pulls here, and that'll hurt you a little bit more on some of these other cards we're going to talk about. That will be a pull priority. Ultimately, it's up to you, and it also comes down to maybe, I would say, some of your luck on your other pulls and what you might have off-bannered, and if you want to go heavier into this one, because trying to get MLB Speed Agnes Tachyon, if you're 100% focused on her, your odds are fairly, like, if you do 400 pulls, are still fairly low in the respect that you need at least 1 copy of Light Hello. And if you get 0 copies of her in those 400 pulls, basically that reduces your odds of being able to get her to MLB versus some of the math you might have seen from others that say in 400 pulls you can MLB a card in about 80, I think it's like 80 to 85% of the time in 400. That's not the case here because of Light Hello and how she is mandatory to you. But I think it's a good start in that respect. Now, there is the option, and you've probably heard this from others as well, is you could just skip her outright to do those extra pulls. As a new player, I think you should be able to, especially if you have played a little bit now and you grind out all the carrots from all the story and stuff. You should actually be able to get all the way up to 200 or 600 pulls on this banner, which gives you very high chance of MLBing her, which then sets you up for success in terms of having a very good, solid speed card. And then you can, and you should at that point, if you do 600, you should have Light Hello, hopefully, as well, to pair with her. And you have 2 strong cards kind of going into the scenario. And then whatever you got maybe off banner, you're going to have a lot of SRs you pick up. It's really hard to kind of tell you any advice on that because it's going to be all over the place. But you should have some SRs that you can work with on the rest of it. And there's one thing I haven't really heard talked about in terms of another speed card you're going to be able to use in the scenario as a replacement. Because one thing you are missing as a brand new player, especially if you ever want to do frontrunners, is Mihono Bourbon Wit. This is a free card that was given out. Very, very good for frontrunners in terms that it has a very strong gold for frontrunners. But going into this scenario, she's a link match, which means even stronger, as well as giving you access to another skill concentration. But one thing that nobody really talks about for a brand new player, or maybe a free to play that's missed that manner, is there is another Mihono Bourbon speed card that will be dropping with 1.5. And this will be pretty much your second card. Because if you're starting now, you will be able to grind this out. You should. She gives you, now it's a medium heal, so not as good on this gold skill side. But she still gives a lot of good frontrunner stuff here. And then she is still a link match with her skill point bonus, speed bonus, decent friendship start. She has training effectiveness. A very good free-to-play card for a brand new player to use in place of Mihono Bourbon Wit. And so you can pair that with whatever one of these 2 you get heavy pulls on. And then you can borrow whichever the other is. So if you don't go over MLB on this, you just do 200 pulls, you can borrow Agnes Tachyon speed, use your own Light Hello. Your second card will be your Mihono Bourbon. And then you just use the free, Summer Maruzensky, and then you use your free Mihono Bourbon. That gets you your 3 speed cards. Now you'll have Wit card, depending on if you pull on her, hopefully. I mean, it's a lot of these are going to be dependent on how the pulls go. She is paired with, I go back here. The first occurrence of her is alongside Nakayama Festa, which to me is a good parent Wit card, but not really a very strong Wit card in her own right. You can use her, but there should hopefully be potentially better SRs you could use. But you have that option. Or if you wait a little bit into Grand Live, she will drop again. A few, like I say, I think it's like a month later, with an even stronger Wit card. And this is where if you wanted to try an MLB Summer Maruzensky, where you could do it after the first 200 pulls on that one. And then this one will get you Fine Motion alongside her. That'll get you all the way up to 4 cards in your deck. The other 2 you're supplementing with SRs that you've picked up off banner. Like I said, it's really, you cannot predict the SRs you get. You'll just supplement that deck with your off banner SRs, however they kind of work out. I've got my cat here wanting to join me here. But then after all that, the next best banner I feel like for a new player to pull on is going to be right up here. The Super Creek Mr. CB Wit card. This serves 2 purposes for you as a new player. Now, the first thing is you'll have been able to save up. You'll have recovered. No matter how you've approached the Light Hello Agnes Tachyon banner, the Summer Maruzensky banner, you've most likely dumped pretty much all your pulls between those 2, and potentially the Summer Maruzensky Fine Motion banner. This is far enough away that has given you kind of time to recover, and you should have at least, hopefully, another pity's worth of pulls. And hopefully, if you're lucky enough, 200 or 400 pulls worth. This being the big banner to pull on for you now. And the reason being, 2 very good support cards. You're going to want Super Creek, as she's going to give you your heal for the Arima Keenan, and you're going to definitely need a stamina card for it. Now, if you're brand new, you don't really know too much about how Track Blazer works, but Track Blazer, you could get your stamina without a stamina card. In Grand Live, you absolutely will need one. And this is a good card to pick up now. And by getting high, going in and trying to MLB her will save you down the road. You'll be able to skip the next strong stamina card, which is Sounds of Earth, as she works good enough. Which makes you will get like a year and a half worth of value, maybe even 2 years of value out of her. Still a very good pickup as a new player. And then it's paired with another strong wit card. Now, even if you're not doing end closers, as like some people would not care about this if they're not really going to be doing any end closers. But Mr. CB Wit is, for a new person, just a generically good stat stick. Even if you don't care about anything in the skills, right now, you're just using whatever you have SR wise. Maybe you're using Nakayama Festa because you got some copies of her off of the first Summon Maruzensky banner. Or you have Fine Motion from the second one. This will kind of be the potential to get you a second decent one while having value, because the primary purpose you're pulling on it is for Super Creek. And then you can get some copies here of Mr. CB Wit. Now, she is not needed at high dupes either, which is really nice. Limit Break 1 pretty much unlocks everything you care about out of her. More dupes just kind of makes her a little bit better of a stat stick and gives you some stats off Mood Effect. Nothing massive. And so that's one nice thing with her. You're getting all those. And then walking with Limit Break 1 is good enough. And now you as a new player will be set up support card wise. You should have 3 speed cards if you consider one of them a borrow. Summon Maruzensky alongside Agnes Tachyon Speed Borrow. And then Mihono Bourbon Speed. If you were someone that rerolled in Taiki Shuttle, you'll also have that kind of in the loop as well. Then you'll also have 2 wit cards, depending on it, how you pulled. Nakayama Festas being one option, Mr. CB Wit, and Fine Motion. However those pulls worked out alongside the others. And so that pretty much covers you for an entire deck. Because then you also have Super Creek also for your stamina card. So you have a full deck's worth of cards to finish off Grand Live, as strong as I feel like you can as a new player. And that allows you to save up for all the big card everybody's talking about with Grand Masters, which is Major Romanu. You'll dump a ton of pulls into her, and bam, now you have her for that one. And in my opinion, you're fairly caught up at that point, and you're just waiting basically for you're waiting for El Condor Pasa speed to drop. And that'll be like the point where you should be like caught up in the sense of you're now at the same deck level as everybody else that maybe has been playing since launch. Since a lot of the cards you're missing by that point will no longer be relevant. Mihono Bourbon Wit, the free card, completely falls off after Mihono Bourbon Wit, the new one, comes out. El Condor Pasa Speed basically power creeps Kita-san Black, and while you can use both of them together, there's a lot of redundancies there. I'd rather use that alongside Summer Maruzensky or Agnes Tachyon Speed or something else. And so you'll be in a pretty good shape there. Now, when it comes to Umas, there's no Umas, in my opinion, that are big must-haves all the way through this. There's a lot of good niche ones, and you can kind of just try. If you have an Oshi, of course, you can pick them up. There's a lot of them that are really good on maybe specific strategies or specific tracks, but none of them that are really must-haves for inherits. The closest being Aston Machan being a very good sprinter that has a good sprint inherit, but it's not as relevant as some of the older ones. It's more niche, similar to some of the others I've talked about, and so by no means a must pick up. So just kind of figure out a couple of the Umas that maybe you want to pull over in here that are good. Just kind of listen to people when they talk about the priority ones. Like if you want to go paces, you have Narita Brian Blaze, Front Runners, Kita-san Black, New Year's. I can't even think of all of them on top of my head. I know Seeking the Pearl's a decent one for sprint and miles. And so they're just kind of all over the place. So there's no pressure in terms of the Umas here. I know it'll be tough as a new player because you really want to save those pulls to get yourself caught up on support cards. And the fact that there's no really must pick up Umas through to Grandmasters, you can really focus on the support cards and use the free ones that they give you at launch, or basically the start of the game. And so that is the approach there. It is definitely, I will say, we're definitely at a point where it feels pretty hard as a new player getting into it. And that is why this approach kind of might feel like you're doing a lot of waiting for stuff. But that's kind of just how it works really right now. It's kind of a tough spot. But there's plenty of speed cards. At least you will be able to make yourself competitive. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. And to kind of just wrap it up real quick in just a quick variation of the plan is, if you're willing to reroll right now, Taiki Shuttle speed, reroll on her, get her as high limit break as you can or tolerate getting her to that point. After that, you can save up for some Maruzensky, do at least 200 pulls on her, unless you're willing to wait until her rerun. If you're deciding to skip her and wait for a rerun, then I would pull a lot heavier. Now, 200 pulls no matter what on Light Hello Agnes Tachyon, to at least at a minimum have Light Hello for this scenario. And then you can kind of borrow Agnes Tachyon speed since you really want her MLB. If you do 200 pulls, you should have some Maruzensky. If you're going to go all in this banner, you really want to push heavily to get Agnes Tachyon speed MLB, which might end up being around 600 pulls. So just know that it's not going to be easy. You can make lower limit breaks work, but her biggest power comes on the back end with the skill points. After that, basically you have the option of the Summer Maruzensky Fine Motion banner here. This gets you more dupes of Summer Maruzensky, can get you another solid wit card to work with while finishing up this scenario. If not there, then you have the Mr. CB Wit alongside Super Creek Stamina. This gets you a strong stamina card that will be strong enough to last all the way until the Air Shakir card that'll be coming down the line quite a ways away. And so you will still get a lot of value out of this card if you pull on her. There is a power creep to her, but that is by no means a must pull though. And so don't be afraid to pull her. And then you're basically saving from that point until the next scenario, which is where you can pull heavily for Major Romanu Wit. And depending on if you're willing to spend a lot of, like about $100, you can probably MLB one of those other cards very easily with selectors here. You have the free selector and paid selectors. And that is pretty much it for a new player. At this point, you're caught up and you're just waiting for Agnes Tachyon, or not Agnes Tachyon, you're waiting for El Condor Pasa speed to drop. And then you'll be basically at the same place everybody else is in terms of support cards, as all the most relevant ones have either been replaced or you have them. Super Creek being the big one. But that's my thoughts on it for a new player. And now I'm always open for discussing on these, whether you want to come into the stream and ask the question. I'm always willing to answer them on stream because everybody's situation is different. It's hard to try and cover everything. As well as if you probably want to put it in my account review section on the Discord, whether I cover it or some other people answer it. A lot of people are willing to help there. Or just asking in the general chat in the Discord to answer your questions. But that's my thoughts right now for a new player starting today. And if you like my content, if you could like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.